This is Graham Taylor.
Can we not knock it? Hitler's over the top! Do I not like that?
Having failed to qualify for the 1994 World Cup, Taylor is regarded as one of England's worst ever managers. At the time, an infamous documentary covering the campaign was seen as evidence of Taylor's ineptitude. Taylor was taken apart by the British press, but was he deserving of such scorn? Was the documentary really so damning, and was his team as bad as was claimed?
It's never been an easy job for anyone. Some people would describe it as an impossible job.
Taylor replaced Bobby Robson as England manager after the 1990 World Cup. With England unlikely to look abroad at the time, Taylor was a leading candidate, having taken Watford from 7th in the 4th Division to top-flight runners-up in just 6 years, before returning Aston Villa to the 1st Division in 1988 and again finishing 2nd in 1990. England, meanwhile, were on a high after the heroic World Cup semi-final penalty loss to eventual winners Germany. Nevertheless, despite opening with a run of 12 games without defeat, it soon became clear both team and coach had already peaked. England edged through qualifying for Euro 92, only scoring 7 goals in 6 games, but finished bottom of their group at the tournament itself. After defeat to hosts Sweden in the final game, the Sun newspaper printed a picture of Taylor's head merged with a turnip. It was illustrative of the press's extreme lack of respect for Taylor, which would only grow. The image followed Taylor around for years, as the Sun would repeatedly refer to him as the turnip. Taylor effectively had to threaten to take action against the paper to get them to stop.
There's 2 positions I don't want to be in this world, Princess of Wales and the England manager.
Already under pressure, the 1994 World Cup qualifying campaign would become Taylor's nadir.
You've got to be mentally tough in this job. And I can well understand how national managers are brought down. And I don't intend that to happen to me.
England were drawn in a tricky group. Norway had current and future Premier League quality and would be unlucky not to progress in the tournament itself before beating Brazil at France 98. The Netherlands boasted Ajax's 1995 Champions League winning generation plus Dennis Bergkamp, who finished 2nd in the 1993 Ballon d'Or vote. Having been a force in the 70s and 80s, Poland had also troubled England in the last 2 qualifying campaigns. Taylor would amp up the pressure by allowing a Channel 4 film crew unprecedented access to the team throughout the process. The resulting documentary, An Impossible Job, has become one of the most iconic and most bizarre sports films of all time. A relative lack of talent was also a problem for Taylor as the 1990 team slowly disintegrated. Captain Terry Butcher and goalkeeper Peter Shilton both retired after the World Cup in Italy, before striker Gary Lineker followed after Euro 92. Meanwhile, having fallen out with Taylor, Chris Waddle's last cap was in 1991, despite him making the Ballon d'Or top 10 that year, and injuries effectively ended long-term captain Brian Robson's international career that same year as well. But he wasn't the only player to suffer. Most notably, striker Alan Shearer, then English football's record domestic transfer, was only fit for 3 of the 10 qualifiers, while captain Stuart Pearce was available for just half the campaign. Across 38 games as coach, Taylor only picked an unchanged team once. Despite their issues, England went undefeated in their first 5 qualifiers, but crucial points were still dropped. Having led at home to Norway, a thunderbolt from Ketil Rekdal equalised late on. England were also 2-0 up inside 23 minutes as the Dutch visited Wembley, but again conceded a late equaliser as out-of-form defender Des Walker clumsily conceded a penalty. Although England sat above Holland, who'd played a game more, the internationals at the end of the 92-93 season would put Taylor in trouble. England scrambled to a draw in Poland after Ian Wright's late goal, but an awful display losing 2-0 in Norway meant just 5 points separated the top 4, while Poland had 2 games in hand.
What we mustn't do against Norway is lose to them.
An embarrassing friendly defeat to the USA a week later saw pressure mount on Taylor, who described the period as the worst of his career. The press continued to hound Taylor and his family. Most egregiously, a camera crew walked into his parents' house unannounced and started filming without warning. Ironically, Taylor's father had been a sports journalist himself, and Taylor states that he considered writing as a backup to football. But Taylor's relationship with the press deteriorated, and he later admitted he could have handled the situation better.
Graham,
the signs of the side you selected against Norway? There are a lot of changes.
No, don't be so silly, Rob. Please don't be so silly there. It's got nothing to do, we've just explained. There's 3.5 of the changes are forced on me. I mean, please don't be silly that way, Rob. It's got nothing to do... No, but listen, well, I'm answering it. It's got nothing to do with Norway.
Taylor was honest to the point of naivety, which sometimes crossed into ill-advised criticism. His comments on Paul Gascoigne, who struggled with alcoholism, and his refuelling between games upset Gascoigne and gave the press significant ammunition.
You've got two kinds of reporters, well, you've got many kinds of reporters, but you've got reporters out that really basically are looking in the main to report on the game and things. Then you've got other reporters who are looking for stories.
With so long to ruminate between games, Taylor also had a tendency to overthink decisions and overcomplicate his instructions.
I will be making changes to the team. Norway are a very methodical team with a very methodical manager. They'll be expecting us to play one way, but for this game, I will be changing the formation.
Hearing that Ireland were planning to antagonise Gascoigne into a sending off during a Euro 92 qualifier, Taylor left Gascoigne, comfortably his best player, out of the team. England struggled to a draw. September's 3-0 win over Poland at Wembley gave England hope, but it set up an all-or-nothing tie with the Netherlands, who'd moved ahead of England on goal difference after thrashing San Marino. The game, and England's campaign, swung on one key moment.
That's it. That's good enough. Go on, Platty. Referee! Referee! Should be sent off. Should be sent off as well. Is he going to send him off? He's got to send him off. That! What are they being instructed?
That inexplicable decision left Koeman on the pitch to score the opener and effectively knock England out of the World Cup.
He's going to flip one, he's going to flip one, and it's in!
Tellingly, the German referee Karl Josef Assenmacher wouldn't take charge of another international, but the damage was done.
I'm just saying to your colleague, referee's got me the sack. Thank him ever so much for that, won't you?
England could still qualify, but needed Poland to beat Holland in their final game while thrashing San Marino themselves. England would go behind in less than 10 seconds, a moment in which Taylor recalls looking up at the sky and saying, "God, what have I done wrong? I am not a bad man." Although England eventually won 7-1, Holland beat Poland to ensure England's elimination. Taylor handed in his resignation 6 days later. Failure to make the World Cup deeply affected Taylor, saying, "It's something I will take with me to the grave. 20 or more years may have passed, but it still hurts." His reputation was at such a low, Taylor feared his career might be over, and he suffered with depression in the aftermath. He even forced himself to sit through every game of the '94 finals on his own, explaining, "It was almost like I was punishing myself. It was part of the process of getting over it." Impossible or not, Taylor, it seems, wasn't ready for the job, which clearly didn't suit him. He admits his first task as coach was to simply find out what the England manager actually did on a day-to-day basis, and that he wasn't prepared for how different it would be.
Now you can, at club level, if you get a game where for any reason everything goes wrong, 3 days later you've got an opportunity to put it right.
Taylor described the role as isolating, and he badly missed working with players every day, so much so that he offered to take training sessions when visiting clubs. Like the press, his fellow professionals saw Taylor as a pushover. Southampton coach Chris Nicholl threw 35 players at him in one session, while Liverpool players repeatedly passed to Taylor in a training game as a joke. An impossible job, nevertheless, portrays Taylor as a decent and honourable man. He's seen confronting a fan for abusing John Barnes and flying out to Spain to inform David Platt in person of his decision to change captain. But in an era rife with lad culture and one with an aggressive press pack, he was perhaps too nice and too open to survive. Although Taylor remained magnanimous over the attention he received, he clearly let the prospect of a bad headline affect him.
Cameras are here. Cameras are here. See, the thing is taking Gascoigne off at this stage. Hell.
I know. It's a bold decision.
Crucified that. It does show the influence of newspapers, though, with these, with the Daily Mirror articles and the Sun article on him.
Although it resulted in an iconic hour of TV, Letting the Channel 4 cameras in was perhaps Taylor's biggest mistake. Taylor later claimed his decision was based on helping fans understand the England manager's job rather than trying to portray himself in a good light. But it needlessly invited ridicule and criticism from which he never truly recovered. Taylor remarkably even turned down the producer's offer to cancel the documentary after the Norway defeat. Taylor later insisted he was perfectly happy with the film, describing it as accurate and a faithful record. In truth, however, an impossible job plays out in a surreal haze of Taylor's odd turn of phrase and bizarre conversations, most notably with assistants Laurie McMenemy and especially Phil Neal, who seems to just repeat everything Taylor says.
Put him up the near post, over the top of it. Ball from over the edge. From right over there.
On the pitch, meanwhile, simple bad luck and individual errors cost England. In a tough group, England should have beaten Holland and Norway at home. Injuries were disastrous throughout, while both Gascoigne and midfield general Paul Ince missed crucial qualifiers through suspension. The scandalous decision not to dismiss Koeman in Rotterdam was Taylor's final undoing, when even a 0-0 draw, it turned out, would have seen England qualify. Although Taylor wasn't suited to the job and made a number of questionable decisions, considering his bad luck, appalling press treatment and a raft of injuries, when looking at the hand he was dealt, his famous phrase,
Do I not like that?
would be something of an understatement.